Welcome to Global Greats. The story of Adolf Hitler is a chilling warning about how democracy can unravel and tyranny can take hold. Hitler's rise, from failed artist to dictator, shows how economic despair and political chaos can be exploited by a charismatic demagogue. This video traces the key steps of his ascent, his early life, the chaos of post-WWI Germany, the Nazi Party's rise, and the dismantling of democracy. Understanding Hitler's path is vital. It's a mirror reflecting the vulnerabilities of any democracy. Adolf Hitler was born in Austria in 1889, not Germany. He grew up in a small town near the German border, shaped by the strict discipline of his father and the affection of his mother. From a young age, Hitler dreamed of becoming an artist, fascinated by drawing and painting, and he imagined a future filled with creativity and recognition. But his ambitions were quickly dashed. He failed as a student and artist, rejected twice by Vienna's prestigious art academy. With no clear path forward, he drifted through Vienna, living in cheap boarding houses and struggling to survive. The city's poverty and social divisions left a deep impression on him, fueling his growing sense of frustration and alienation. In Vienna, Hitler was exposed to a toxic mix of anti-Semitic and nationalist ideas that were widespread at the time. He began to blame Jews and other minorities for his personal failures and for the problems he saw in society. These prejudices took root and would later become central to his worldview. When World War I broke out, Hitler saw an opportunity to escape his aimless life. He enlisted in the German army, where he finally found a sense of purpose and belonging. Serving bravely on the front lines, he was decorated for his courage and deeply affected by the camaraderie and discipline of military life. But Germany's defeat in 1918 shattered him. The signing of the Treaty of Versailles, with its harsh terms and national humiliation, left Hitler and many others feeling betrayed and angry. While recovering from wounds in a military hospital, Hitler learned of Germany's surrender. He embraced the stab-in-the-back myth, a conspiracy theory blaming Jews and socialists for the nation's defeat, rather than the realities of war. This belief became his obsession and mission. Determined to avenge Germany's defeat and restore its power, Hitler entered politics, joining radical groups and quickly rising through their ranks. Hitler's personal failures and resentments fused with extremist ideology, setting him on a path toward radicalization. He became a powerful speaker, channeling his anger and the frustrations of many Germans into a dangerous political movement. The war's end left him angry, isolated, and determined to find scapegoats for Germany's suffering. Like many veterans, he struggled to adjust to civilian life, haunted by defeat and economic hardship. These experiences forged the hateful worldview that would define his political career, setting the stage for the rise of one of history's most destructive regimes. After World War I, Germany's new Weimar Republic faced humiliation, economic collapse, and political chaos. The Treaty of Versailles imposed crushing reparations and blame, fueling resentment and extremism. Hyperinflation wiped out savings, violence and instability plagued the streets. The Great Depression hit in 1929, causing mass unemployment and despair. Mainstream parties seemed helpless, paralyzed by infighting. Many Germans lost faith in democracy, longing for order and strong leadership. Extremist parties like the Nazis exploited this crisis, offering scapegoats and radical solutions. The Nazis promised to restore pride and stability, channeling anger toward minorities and political enemies. In this climate of desperation, Hitler's message found fertile ground. Hitler mastered propaganda, appealing to emotion over reason. With Joseph Goebbels, he used radio, film, and mass rallies to spread the Nazi message. Nazi propaganda hammered simple themes: betrayal, the injustice of Versailles, fear of communism, and anti-Semitic conspiracy. Hitler's speeches and rallies mesmerized crowds, offering scapegoats and a vision of national rebirth. The Nazis built a cult of personality around Hitler, portraying him as Germany's savior. Their propaganda contrasted his strength with the weakness of Weimar politicians. As the Depression deepened, Nazi support soared, from fringe to the largest party in the Reichstag by 1932. Charisma, propaganda, and hate had captured millions. Hitler's final ascent wasn't through a popular vote, but political deals by conservative elites. In January 1933, President Hindenburg appointed Hitler chancellor, believing he could be controlled. Hitler quickly moved to consolidate power. The Reichstag fire in February 1933 allowed him to push through emergency decrees, suspending civil liberties. The Nazis unleashed terror on opponents, arresting thousands. Despite intimidation, they still lacked a majority in the March elections. Hitler then pushed the Enabling Act, granting him dictatorial powers. Through threats and political deals, the act passed. Democracy was dead. Hitler could now rule by decree, silencing all opposition. The legal path to dictatorship was complete. With the passing of the Enabling Act in 1933, Hitler gained the legal authority to govern by decree, effectively eliminating all opposition within the government and paving the way for a totalitarian regime. He quickly moved to make the Nazi Party the only legal political party in Germany, dissolving all rivals and ensuring that no alternative voices could challenge his rule. Trade unions and independent organizations were systematically crushed, their leaders were arrested, their offices raided, and their assets seized by the state. German society was rapidly brought under Nazi control, with propaganda saturating public spaces and citizens encouraged or forced to participate in Nazi-organized events. Yet, a significant threat to Hitler's dominance remained: the SA, or Sturmabteilung, led by Ernst Röhm, whose growing influence and radical ambitions alarmed both the army and conservative elites. The SA's power began to rival that of the traditional German army, creating tension and uncertainty within the Nazi leadership. In June 1934, Hitler acted decisively, launching the Night of the Long Knives, a brutal purge targeting Röhm, top SA leaders, and other critics, both inside and outside the party. This violent crackdown not only secured the army's loyalty by eliminating its rivals, but also sent a chilling message to the German public: opposition would not be tolerated. The Führerprinzip, or leader principle, was now firmly established. Hitler's word was law. When President Hindenburg died in August 1934, Hitler seized the opportunity to merge the offices of President and Chancellor, officially declaring himself Führer and cementing his absolute authority. The German army was compelled to swear a personal oath of loyalty to Hitler himself, rather than to the constitution or the nation. With this final act, all remaining checks on Hitler's power were erased, and the machinery of the Nazi state was now fully under his command. Hitler had become the absolute ruler of Germany, wielding unchecked power over the nation and its people. Nazi ideology fused racial supremacy, extreme nationalism, and violent anti-Semitism. This toxic blend was at the core of Hitler's vision for Germany, shaping every aspect of the regime's policies and propaganda. The Nazis promoted the belief that Germans were a master race, destined to rule over others, and that all outsiders, especially Jews, were threats to national purity and strength. Jews were scapegoated as Germany's main enemy, blamed for all ills. Nazi propaganda saturated daily life, spreading lies and fueling hatred. This relentless campaign dehumanized Jewish people, making it easier for ordinary citizens to accept discrimination and violence. The Nazis enacted the Nuremberg Laws, stripping Jews of rights and isolating them. These laws banned Jews from marrying non-Jews, holding certain jobs, or participating in public life, turning neighbors into outcasts overnight. Kristallnacht in 1938 marked a shift to open violence. Synagogues burned, businesses destroyed, thousands arrested. The Night of Broken Glass sent shockwaves through Jewish communities, signaling that persecution would only intensify. Persecution escalated to genocide. The Holocaust murdered 6 million Jews and millions of others. The world would later uncover the full horror of concentration camps, mass graves, and the systematic machinery of death. Simultaneously, Hitler pursued aggressive expansion, rearming, annexing Austria, seizing Czechoslovakia. Each bold move was met with little resistance from other nations, emboldening the Nazi regime. In 1939, he invaded Poland, triggering World War II. The world was plunged into chaos, as nations scrambled to respond to the Nazi threat. Hitler's rise plunged the world into its deadliest conflict, leaving devastation and horror. Cities were reduced to rubble, millions were displaced, and the scars of war would last for generations. His story is a stark lesson about the dangers of unchecked power and hate. When prejudice and authoritarianism go unchallenged, the consequences can be catastrophic for humanity. Democracy's collapse was gradual, enabled by fear, division, and apathy. The erosion of rights and freedoms happened step by step, often unnoticed until it was too late. Today we must recognize these warning signs to safeguard our freedoms. Remembering history is essential to ensure that hate and tyranny never rise again.